So there was a video I noticed that popped up from OJ over at Player Essence, and I had a feeling he would notice this like I was, and that had to do with Super Mario RPG. And another person I'm curious, or company I'm curious, is noticing this would be Nintendo. And this has to do mostly with maybe the future of some of these RPG or role-playing games with the Mario franchise. Think of Paper Mario, the direction that's gone in, and really what we could get out of maybe a future of more games closer to what we have with Super Mario RPG, or maybe even Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, that lean into the turn-based RPG mechanics with that sort of progression system. Well, in some recent news, we had sales coming out, and if there's one thing that a company listens to, it's definitely money, and that might spell good news if you're someone that was hoping for a return to form going forward with some of these Paper Mario or Mario RPG games. So if you guys enjoy this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and we're going to start today with actually a very fitting sponsor considering the history with Super Mario RPG. Today's video is sponsored by Square Enix. Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis lets you revisit memorable moments from the series, reliving the journey of a young hero Sephiroth with a new original story, The First Soldier. Familiar characters are reimagined in modern quality, playing off the iconic polygon models from the original Final Fantasy VII. The battles are played in full 3D with fast-paced command-based battles, introducing an evolved active time battle system, now with updated features to play on mobile devices. Enjoy captivating cutscenes with screen-filling limit breaks and summons. Grow your characters by winning battles, leveling up, improving weapons, and materia. Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis is free to play now on iOS and Android, with the Final Fantasy IX crossover event underway for a limited time. Take on the Black Waltz and customize Final Fantasy VII series characters such as Cloud and Tifa with limited time Final Fantasy IX themed gear. Get the 3,000 blue crystals Final Fantasy IX crossover gift now, and you can obtain an additional 1,500 blue crystals by logging in before December 7th. Relive the classic Final Fantasy VII universe on your mobile device today using the link in the description below. Thanks to Square Enix for sponsoring today's video. I mean, Square Enix makes sense, obviously, with the lineage of Super Mario RPG, but in this case, Arte Piazza remade the game in Unity. And as I've been playing this game, a few things stand out to me. It is basically a one-to-one remake with some really fun things like the different cutscenes thrown in there, and then also the very noticeable things with like lack of voice acting that really doesn't line up with the high-quality cutscenes that are presented. Nonetheless, absolute classic, and they didn't try to reinvent the wheel. They had a few twists and turns here in the game itself, mostly quality of life things to make the experience somewhat more current, but the game is still a blast to play, and I think the visuals and things they were able to do was good considering sort of the source material and the very unique visuals, we'll say, that they were pulling from with the Super Nintendo. And now that the game is out, I was curious how it would do with sales and the current audience for Nintendo, because I've mentioned before, and I think this is the reason you're seeing kind of a pivot from a lot of companies with storied franchises in the turn-based genre. I don't really know if the newer audience, the newer generation, is all in on like turn-based stuff. Nonetheless, this is over in the UK for the sales charts in its debut week. It came in at number 6, and that is ahead of Bluey, which is more impressive than it initially sounds. Bluey is incredibly popular, it just is, and I think in the MPD sales for November, people will probably be pretty surprised at its placement. It's like a $40 game. Wouldn't be shocked if it's in the top 7 or 8. Remember, the MPD tracks, or Circana, tracks by revenue, so the Bluey game is already at a disadvantage, 40 versus 60 or 70. So again, Super Mario RPG beating out Bluey just with its overall popularity. I'd say it's pretty good. Still below Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Marvel Spider-Man 2, EA Sports, FC24, Call of Duty MW3, Hogwarts Legacy. But I was curious how this would do with its one-to-one approach to the original and that turn-based gameplay. But the place where I was very interested in are really where we'll get better numbers in terms of just being straightforward, hard numbers we can look at and also compare to past releases. Which brings us to the Famitsu sales charts. Now, this is over on Nintendo Everything, and it's, of course, tracked by Famitsu, but they put it in this nice little format here that's easy to follow. And while Super Mario RPG didn't top the charts in its debut week, there's a chance in the next week, the follow-up here, that it could actually go to number 1, depending on how Super Mario Bros. Wonder does. Because while Momotaro did take the top spot, Mario RPG was 13,000 units behind, coming in at 301,000 copies sold, which is actually very impressive considering at this time the games that you would, I guess, more closely compare that to would be just the Paper Mario games. That's just, you think of like, okay, Mario turn-based RPG kind of stuff. Again, the most recent one, Origami King, was getting closer to that more traditional turn-based RPG that we had with something like Thousand Year Door, but still, the battles and the progression, I just don't think was really rewarding enough after the first like 50 or 60 battles or something. Interesting idea with the puzzle concept, and I like the visuals, and I thought they did some fun things, but not necessarily up to the lineage that I think we were hoping to see, and now we're all looking forward to Thousand Year Door. But if we take the 301,000 copies, this is in Japan, again, physical copies sold here, and we compare them, we can see it easily crushed the best-selling one in its first week, which was on the Wii, Super Paper Mario. And that actually was a pretty interesting game, too, just some of the concepts, 2D to 3D stuff, but still easily doubled that up, as we can see. And then from there, lifetime sales, there's a chance that we could see Super Mario RPG Remake maybe go above some of these lifetime sales this year, depending on how the holiday season goes. It wouldn't shock me if it gets to the end of this year and it's easily cleared 500,000 copies sold and being right behind Paper Mario Sticker Star. Kind of funny that is like the top one they have here, but hey, that's how it goes. So that makes me think about this a bit and go, okay, well, what could Nintendo's plan be going forward? We know Thousand Year Door is coming up. I wonder if that will surpass what we have here with Super Mario RPG currently in terms of sales. But even if it doesn't, you kind of look at this as Nintendo and go, oh, wow, okay, that Super Mario RPG, it worked at least. The turn-based stuff wasn't necessarily a turn-off for the current generation. And what's interesting is there was an article that sort of resurfaced, and it was from earlier this year. I mean, you could see this is in February 15th, 2022. This was the original Super Mario RPG game director who was talking about making a follow-up to the game, as in a full-on sequel. So we have a remake now, right, which reintroduces the current audience to Super Mario RPG. It does make you wonder, well, does that mean that maybe Nintendo would look around and go, let's try a follow-up to this? And what's interesting is the director here was at Alpha Dream, which we know Nintendo basically just watched go away, dissolve, and I'm sure they absorbed some of the talent there, the developers, basically by just hiring them normally. But it does obviously show that they would be freed up then to maybe show up and direct a Super Mario RPG 2. You know what's really funny is, as I'm looking through here, they did talk about like how they tried to navigate the idea of a different kind of perspective. Top down, they point out Final Fantasy as a big inspiration for it. And this is, I'd say, at the time where Square was really rolling along, obviously with things like Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9. That's where they, took off into the stratosphere with 3D Final Fantasy games. But I thought it was funny because they mentioned that they initially, I was thinking of having Mario use magic attacks and use a sword as well, but we realized that it doesn't make sense for a character like Mario to be using weapons like that. So we figured having Mario use jump attacks made more sense. That's how the idea slowly changed. We've had Mario use weapons kind of recently in Kingdom Battle, where he just has a gun. Sure, it's dressed up to be more fantastical. I don't know. That actually could become an interesting idea in a follow-up where you have more variety with weapons. Dress it up a bit to fall more in line with Nintendo's image and what they like to do with that sort of thing. But interesting stuff here for how Super Mario RPG is rolling along out of the gate. And something tells me Nintendo probably notices this themselves, and it makes me wonder if they look at Thousand Year Door and that gets off and running as well, if maybe they do sort of go back to the drawing board with this, and rather than try to get too creative or try to reinvent the wheel too much with the next Paper Mario. Maybe they go, hey, let's try a Mario RPG 2. Or maybe they say, you know what? Let's try going back to the more traditional turn-based stuff and do some twists and turns with that, as opposed to all the other weird stuff they've been attempting with Paper Mario. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below. Are you hopeful now after seeing Mario RPG's push out of the gate here with sales? And do you think Nintendo might capitalize on it even with a sequel? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.